Hello, everybody, and welcome to this Saturday night special CCGG Scrim Round 2. My name is DollaBillz, and I'm hosting alongside Kazghar. Kazghar, we have a fantastic match in front of us, CrazyCookie versus Kuroko. But before we get into that, how you doing, man? How's your Saturday going so far?
I'm doing great. Good Saturday. Great Saturday evening for some Hearthstone to check out this show match with what I have to say are some pretty interesting deck lists we're looking at here.
Oh yeah, nothing better than having a couple of different decks to actually get to talk about. We have CrazyCookie bringing a Priest, Warlock, and Shaman, and Kuroko bringing a Rogue, Hunter, and Priest. We had a Hunter ban, we had a Paladin ban. I'm interested in the Warlock and Shaman bring, Kazghar. That's not really the typical gang we're used to seeing, huh?
No, not at all. I think the discard lock is going to be the most interesting. I haven't seen too much of that, but I do think that his ban makes a lot of sense with this lineup. The Warlock's going to get pretty low, making it pretty easy for the Holy Wrath Paladin to get him there, and they can just clear that board very easily with the Shaman, and they cycle way too fast to kill the Priest. So I think he had the correct ban in getting rid of that Holy Wrath Paladin from Kuroko.
Absolutely. And then on Kuroko's side, we have... Oh yeah, he banning a Hunter, bans a tier 1 deck. No, nothing wrong with that. OTK Paladin.
Safe choice.
Yeah. Kuroko is bringing his Odd Rogue, his mid-range Hunter, and his Cloning Gallery Res Priest. A little bit more standard, maybe. We definitely see the Hunter, Priest, Paladin bring, and then the Rogue is actually not that uncommon of a 4th deck. Well, what are your thoughts on Rogue as a 4th bring?
I think Rogue's actually great in this meta right now. It really manages to crush Priest in my experience. I think if we can get either the Mind Blast version or the Res Priest version, I think you have a good start. And I think it's gonna, against the Shaman, that Rogue's gonna depend on who can get the coin and who gets to go first and generate that tempo first. And I have no clue how it's gonna do against the Warlock. Honestly, my intuition is that because Warlock's gonna be tapping a lot, the damage from Odd Rogue might be a little too much to handle.
Yeah, and Warlock is just one of those classes that other classes, it sort of has a built-in weakness against Hunters and Rogues just because their hero power plays into an aggressive playstyle, right? Hunter can hit the button. Like when Hunter hits their button and Warlock hits their button, Warlock loses 4 health every turn.
Right, exactly.
Even Shaman is one of those things. I guess this might be the swan song of Even Shaman with the changes coming in, losing the Flame Tongue Totem. Do you think Even Shaman survives or finds a different 2-drop?
I don't know how it does. It's already running some pretty subpar 2-drops, and the reason it gets to do that is because you have the Flame Tongue Totem.
Yeah, Flame Tongue Totem giving
actual
you that
threat. So I don't know how it feels, which personally is sad for me. I love Even Shaman. It's actually my favorite deck.
And that's just a great point, because with the power of Flame Tongue Totem basically giving you, best case scenario, 4/4 with charge, or like 4 attack basically with charge if you're able to hit 2 minions from the previous turn, or even a minion with charge, a minion with rush. I think it was Chalky saying, why would we not play Flame Tongue Totem? It's like a 6 mana card. It's like you get a,
what's that, 6 behind a...
Yeah, what's that? There's a 6, it's a classic card, 6 mana, 4/2 Divine Shield with charge.
That is the Argent Commander.
The Argent
which
Commander.
Is actually in Cookie's Even Shaman as well.
Yeah, so those two obviously work together really well. But yeah, Chalky's point. Exactly. Chalky's whole point was we can head to Northrend for 2 mana. Why would we not do that?
Exactly.
All right, so we're going to be getting the players in. So given the Priest, Warlock, Shaman lineup, Kazghar, do you have a feeling or an intuition? What do you like to lead with this particular set of decks?
I think that's hard to really say with Conquest, right? Because each one has to get a win. You can't necessarily counter Q and just sweep them with your first deck like in LHS, right? But I'm generally a fan of just leading with the deck I'm most comfortable with. It just gets me in a good mindset. I'm playing the games I know the best, and so.
Yeah, that's such a great point. I'm a big advocate of bringing decks you're comfortable with, even to the point of maybe you don't bring like the S tier decks. If there's like an A tier deck that you are really comfortable playing, I would suggest, especially if you're just getting into competitive Hearthstone, bring the one you're most comfortable, the one where you have the intuitive reads for finding lines and finding wins.
Absolutely. Whatever percentage points that you might gain on a spreadsheet from statistics, you're gonna lose those if you.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So it looks like we're actually going to see Cookie's Even Shaman coming up against the Cloning Gallery Priest of Kuroko. We've seen a lot of different Cloning Gallery Priest lists out there, and I believe Kuroko is running, we were talking a little bit before the cast, Kuroko is playing the very lean, only 4 or 5 creatures. Actually, you were commenting that it's the 4 creature list with a Zilliax.
Right, yeah, and I think that's a pretty interesting decision. Mana is a guaranteed huge burst damage combo from your spells, and you're sort of losing that by adding in the Zilliax, right? Because then some of the time you maybe don't get your huge burst turn. So I think it's an interesting choice, but it should benefit him against this Even Shaman that's going to try to take the board early and rush him down with these tiny minions.
Fantastic point. This is one of those decks that I would assume that the Zilliax is in for, right? Because this deck's going to try to kill you before you can combo, and you can pretty safely say that you are in the control role, right? It's sort of the impetus is on CrazyCookie to come across the board and kill Kuroko before Kuroko can combo off.
Exactly.
We see CrazyCookie with the even deck classic turn 1 hero power and pass the turn. And so Shadow Visions, I was just about to say he's probably looking for a couple more copies of Psychic Scream or Mass Hysteria, but Spirit Lash is a pretty good consolation prize.
Absolutely, and I'm interested in CrazyCookie's not potentially coin out the 2-drop to start the pressure early, because then either Kuroko doesn't have a smite and you get a little bit of extra face damage, or he has to burn a smite on a minion very early.
Yeah, that is, and that's definitely something to, when you are in the beatdown role, as CrazyCookie is, there's definitely high tempo plays are generally in your best interests, right? Because you need to make sure that you can actually put on enough pressure to make his turns awkward. So I think that's an excellent point. Potentially throwing out a higher impact card earlier on.
Absolutely, and there's that smite burn we were talking about. So perhaps we might need to make sure he gets some damage spells off that second Shadow Visions to be able to burst him down.
And Shadow Vision's just one of those cards that is able to. It's one of the ways that a priest can figure out a way to have 3 Psychic Screams, have 3 Spirit Lashes, stuff like that. Ways to basically break the rules of HearthStone. But man, you want to talk about getting on the board? CrazyCookie is on the board.
Yep, Cookie is very much on the board, but that extra Spirit Lash from the Shadow Visions is going to clean this board up pretty nicely here in a couple of turns with all these one health minions.
Yeah, and if there's one thing you don't want to happen when you are the aggressor is to have a deck full of 1-mana 1/1 draws. There's going to come a point in the mid game, early late game, where CrazyCookie's going to want to find his big threats. One of them we actually see in the hand right now, Argent Commander, the 6-mana 4 damage to the dome. We also see Alakir in hand already. So he's actually got a couple of cards in his hand already.
Absolutely, and you see him mousing over that Argent Commander there, maybe considering, does he want to just go ahead and play this now, protect against the potential Spirit Lash, knowing he has 1 turn before Psychic Scream to get this 4, potentially 8 damage in.
Yeah, and he's actually got one of these awkward, like, he just doesn't have any board room. His board is totally full, but he's only got 6 damage on the board. So he actually kind of needs Kuroko to do something so that he can make room and play these higher impact threats. The Shadow Essence is going to grab a Radiant Elemental. The nice thing about Shadow Essence is pretty much everything in your deck, especially at the super lean list, there's really no creatures you mind coming out as a 5/5.
Yeah, absolutely. And really, any you're gonna challenge Shaman board, but as you mentioned, that actually ended up creating board space for CrazyCookie to slam down some more threats. But instead, going with the slower route.
He knows he's going into turn 7, and he is sure that there's a Psychic Scream in. I guess there's no way he can be 100% sure that there's a Psychic Scream in his hand, but he definitely saw a Shadow Visions earlier. There have been 7 natural draws plus the mulligan. He's definitely, I have to assume, high alert for Psychic Scream.
Absolutely. Which is interesting that he decided to go totem, right? Because you would rather Psychic Scream and Argent Commander into your deck than a totem.
Yeah, that's a great point. And actually, so maybe he didn't want. Huh, that's interesting, actually. So I wonder if he should have tried to present something more screamable, or if he wanted a Spirit Lash to come out so that he can now present threats he doesn't mind getting screamed.
Right,
Merc Spark Eel going face.
Not a lot of tempo to be gained with the Merc Spark Eel against this deck, so I think the 2 face damage is definitely the place for that to go.
Yeah, and he knows this is open deck format, so he knows that the only thing that would even really be handled by this Merc Spark Eel is Zilliax after the Divine Shield is down. So get the damage in and go ahead and continue onwards. So here we see Prophet Valen, the 7 mana, 7/7, super high threat level. This is one of those cards sort of on a tier of its own where you can't let it stay on the board.
Absolutely, it's got that auto taunt, and now it's in the res pool here for Kuroko to Eternal Servitude, maybe a second Spirit Lash, which will double dip, healing for a ton, or even just Eternal Servitude hero pack.
Right, and this is one of those times.
Actually looking fairly.
Sorry, I cut you off there. What were you saying?
Oh, I was just saying that Velen is now in his res pool, which is definitely something to consider because he can even res it for some desperate heals if he really needs to. But right now he's looking quite comfortable going into the last couple of turns of the mana acceleration here.
Yeah, and that's one of the interesting things about piloting this priest deck is you're playing with the cards in your deck, after they're cloned, the cards in your resurrection pool, and you're kind of having to play with all 40 cards that represents all at the same time. And so yeah, and so playing against it, if you don't have a transform effect, like you were saying earlier, the Spellstone now brings back a Valen. And potentially a Valen and a Radiant Elemental, which you don't want to see that when you're sitting on the other side of the table.
Absolutely not. So now you have to think if he draws his Hex, he wants to save it for that Malagos for that last big spell damage threat.
Right. So there's, definitely still an opportunity for him
try to transform at least one of the damage combos pieces.
Yeah, absolutely. So here we're going to see the Cloning Gallery come out. This is going to bring out a Lich King that... Oh, wait a minute. There's no Lich King in this list?
There's no Lich King in this list. It's got the double elementals, the Velen, the Malagos, and Zilliax.
That's right. Okay, so he actually can't... Yeah, he actually can't mess up his Spellstone, as long as he fully upgrades it all the way. Because that's 4... Am I doing my math right? Okay, hold on, I have to do some on-stream math real quick. Let me just make sure I'm doing some... Yeah. Radiant Elemental, Malagos, Valen, Zilliax is what would come off of... Yeah, because he's not playing any Gargoyles, he's not playing any Witchwood Grizzlies. Yeah, okay, interesting. So we're going to see a Alec here to try to control this board. Or, wait, does he have a way to perchance win the game immediately?
I'm not sure.
Oh, with the lifesteal. He's actually going to heal Kuroko for 2 before he can get his attacks in.
He does set up a very threatening board and also the potential to throw down Calamos for 6 to face next turn as well. So even if he does manage to deal with the Alakir, he's not out of the woods yet.
Yeah, and we see another Psychic Scream ready to go in Kuroko's hand if he wants to. He's also got a Mass Hysteria. And this is one of those things where Priest can sometimes just combo you to death. Does he have a way to just win the game right now? Because Mind Blasts cost 0. He's got a Vivid Nightmare that he can use.
Just assume.
Right. So he can Vivid Nightmares this Valen to get the double. And that is not...
That's not quite enough.
That is not quite enough, but it is tantalizingly close.
He's just going to go for it here.
And I guess he's just going to rip this Mass Hysteria. Or, right, because he has to...
He has to deal with this board somehow. Although he can... for 4 with his hero power, instead of burning his Mass Hysteria. And I think he's now out of lethal range.
Oh yeah, using a series of trades, he's able to bring himself completely out of lethal range for the time being. Zilliax's heals coming in super huge for Kuroko over the course of just the past couple of turns. And now you see 2 Valens on the board, both of which demand your attention.
Twice as scary as 1 Valen, if my math serves me correct.
That sounds right. It sounds right. It feels right. Can confirm. Good math. So with this Kalamos, the Primal Lord, he's actually going to choose to heal himself for 12. And that feels
Double
like...
again.
Wait a minute.
That's not what you want to see.
That's not what you want to see. You definitely would not play Gen Greymane if you didn't have to in this deck. All right, so now we found ourselves in sort of a Kuroko doesn't have a ton of cards. He's just going to windmill slam this Malygos, it looks like, based on his mouse movements. Changing his mind. Malygos.
Considering the Anduin here to get rid of Kalamos, but I guess he decides it's not that much of a threat at this point, and he's fine to just go ahead and get Malygos out there.
I'm interested by that, because I was definitely tempted to play that Anduin that turn. But maybe he figures he just has to set up to go ahead and win this game. I wonder if Kuroko feels like he's behind right now and has to play a little bit more aggressively to the board. Actually, he's going to be, as long as he survives this turn, he's going to be able to Shadow Reaper Anduin both of these guys off the board. Essentially.
Oh, yeah. I think he actually made the smart play long term. He says, you know, he has a 9 damage guy on board, but I can survive. He doesn't have that much burst, and maybe he'll play another big threat with this Flame Tongue Totem, and I can kill 2 threats and just take control of the board. So I think that was a smart play, looking a couple of turns ahead there from Kuroko.
Definitely, and he's aware that he has to ration all of his control tools, because he's got a small hand now. He's going to have to make sure that he stretches the value of these last remaining cards as long as he can into the future. CrazyCookie going to go ahead and load up again with a bunch of token-esque minions, and then make them much more threatening with the big old anti-magic shell.
Absolutely, this is an enticing board clear here. It's just, how does Kuroko want to do it?
Yeah, and this is one where I don't think Kuroko would prefer to Psychic Scream a Malygos into his opponent's deck. And okay.
All right,
it's the full board clear. That's one of my favorite animations to watch, but one of the ones I have the most difficulty talking about, because it's like watching a sport I don't know all the rules to. Like, I understand the card text, but when I see it happen, it's like, we're just gonna learn about this together. Let's see how this goes.
Absolutely. Anytime there's more than maybe 4 minions on board, just kind of jam it. I can't figure out all the different ways it can work out, so I just sort of jam it, and I think I'll see what happens after this is done.
Right, it's one of those, like, let's play this at the top of the turn, and then we'll react to the board state after that. So here's actually a circumstance where you get to play the Gen. Obviously, it's sort of your 5th most, I don't know, it's like your 8th favorite card. Like your card that's like, you know, it's not nothing. It's a 6/5. It's not your least threatening card, but it's definitely not worth
Sure,
its weight in money.
It's not one of your best threats. It's not particularly scary, but like you said, it is something. It is better than these 1/1 tokens as far as making Kuroko have to deal with it.
Yeah, and now we see one of the most flavorful hero powers, the Bewitch, coming in, and this is where any deck that has Hagatha can sometimes find the right series of exactly the spells you need at exactly the right time. Gosh, so Kazghar, I'm interested.
Shaman, because you always think, I draw Hagatha, maybe something happens.
That's right. There's always a chance. You don't always know what the percentage is, but there's always a non-zero chance this is going to potentially pull out a Psychic Scream. He's actually trying to decide between Shadow Vision Zing for, I would assume, a Spirit Lash or a Spellstone. Looks like he has a choice of either, Spirit Lash. Or potentially... Oh, yes.
Beautiful.
Wow.
The board clear, full heal.
The old build your own Reno Jackson. And he even gets a 4/6, which if I remember correctly, is slightly ahead of Reno Jackson. So in this position, it definitely feels like Kuroko is ahead. Does that jive with you, or who do you think is ahead in this particular board state, Kazghar?
It seems like Kuroko. I know I earlier said you know, conceded even Shaman because he had Agatha. But I think after that play, I might have hit the escape key just a few times to think about it. But very much still in it. He's got Hagatha, the top deck flame out.
Yeah, one of the.
And
Oh my gosh. This is what, the fourth Valen of this game? Why stop? Why stop with Prophet Valen? We're gonna see how many Valens we can get before this game comes to an end, and it's looking. This is looking tough for CrazyCookie. He's gonna have to hit some amazing. Yeah.
To get a board clear here though, which helps.
Yeah, that's definitely going to. And if he can get some good spells, some good elementals, Arcanosaur comes off the Menacing Nimbus. Probably not the elemental he was looking for, but it's fun.
In this particular situation.
Yeah, probably would have preferred a Blaze Caller or something along those lines, but it's random effect, not a discover. There's only so much he can do, and I believe Kuroko is going to transition smoothly into winning the game.
Seems that way.
One of the fun things about becoming Shadow Reaper Anduin is all of a sudden all of your cards have, you know, whatever their mana cost is, and then 2 mana kicker, deal 2 damage, and it can just sort of change the flavor of any hand.
Absolutely.
I mean, definitely play all the cards. We've made it this far. There's always a chance that maybe he misses face.
So, the lethal.
Right. This would probably be on one of the earlier tiers of the Boomsday Project Puzzle Lab. And he does it. So Kuroko goes up 1 game to 0 with his Cloning Gallery Priest. For those of you who don't know, Kuroko actually made it to the Group 1. He was in the Decider matches Group 1 finalist for the WESG Peru. Which is really just an amazing finish for someone to do, especially trying to get into the scene and get started in competitive Hearthstone. That's just a really excellent showing.
Absolutely, and he definitely played like someone who had been in situations before. I just want to go back to that Calamos play, in that we were both talking. Oh, it's interesting that he didn't want to kill this Calamos here. It's pretty threatening, and he and get a lot more value out of this Anduin because he still got a Lich King, which is a potentially crucial card in the matchup.
Yeah, that's a great point to reflect on, because I even said, like, I'm really tempted to play this Shadow Reaper Anduin, but holding on to it allowed him to deal with 2 big threats. Perhaps lulled CrazyCookie is like, oh, he doesn't have it, I can commit more to the board, and now it's able to maybe give him the chance to make it to the point where he finally is able to stabilize, heal, and start dealing damage. Those are just a really excellent heads up play that I frankly probably would have bungled. I just want to mention real quick, first of all, thanks everybody for coming out on this Saturday, watching some Hearthstone. I would be remiss if I did not mention the Discord. The link is under the stream. Great place to go if you want to get into Hearthstone commentary, if you like to practice, meet like-minded people, talk to me. I'm not going to say it's the biggest benefit talking to me, but it's something you can do or avoid. I won't judge you either way. A great way to get into esports production, and a great way to really get involved in any kind of card-based esport. There's people who are commenting on Artifact, obviously people playing Hearthstone like we're doing today, Magic the Gathering, Gwent. So definitely come check it out, come hang out with us. And also a big thanks to Bemi. Without him, I would just be shouting into a void. So thank you very much, Bemi. All right. So that's going to bring us to 0-1 in the series. CrazyCookie now has to, he still has that even shaman that he has to find a win with. Whereas Kuroko can go ahead and decide between his hunter, I believe it's a mid-range hunter featuring Master's Call with Nozel Jin, or his Odd Rogue. And So I also need to tell you about the, go ahead and type !bracket into the chat and learn about an entire self-contained European competition, of which I should know more details about. but I am remiss in my duties. It's another opportunity to see more excellent competitive Hearthstone, and another opportunity to just, because if there's one thing that I think everyone can agree on, it's that watching Hearthstone, playing Hearthstone is just a good use of your time. The House Rivalry Season 1 in Europe, you'll get to see all different kinds of players playing against each other, and as well as in a sort of a team setting, which it's a 3v3 format. And it allows you to bring in all the different kinds of team dynamics that make sort of a team-based competitive Hearthstone. And it also allows the opportunity for these teams to gain exposure, potentially pick up sponsorships, and allow more people to pursue a career either in esports management, esports playing, esports production. If you're a fan of esports, definitely give it a look. Once again, !bracket. It's the House Rivalries competition in Europe. So as far as the next matchup goes, we now have a Cookie obviously is able to play his shaman again if he would like to. No requirement to do so, but in this particular format, he might just want to, since he has to get a win with it, be more inclined to stay on it. I know there are people who say every deck has to win, so you might as well stay with it. And then you have other folks who just roll a dice so that they cannot be predictable. And across the way, we have Kuroko, who has to decide between his mid-range hunter and his odd rogue, Kazghar. What would you like to bring if you are Kuroko right now? You have your odd rogue and your mid-range hunter.
I think next you bring in the odd rogue. I think that'll be the one. I think mid-range hunter is the one that could struggle the most specifically against priest. So I think you go ahead, you bring the odd rogue, you get this win here, and then you have 3 shots with hunter. Even though you might lose against the priest, you've got 2 other chances with the tier 1 deck to get that 3rd win.
Yeah, and that's actually one of the things that is interesting to think about concerning the bans. Leaving up hunter is an interesting choice, because hunter definitely feels like the class to beat right now. And if you leave it up, you're sort of saying to basically the other player, I think I can beat your hunter, is what it says to me. Does that seem, what do you think about the paladin over the hunter ban?
I think it says either I can beat your hunter, or it says I'm so confident that I can beat the other 2 decks, and I'm a little confident that I can beat hunter, that I'll let you have that win potentially, and I can get those. But I think what's card that Cookie brought that could have game against hunter. I've never seen it played, and it seems like he knows it the most, and I think he might actually have an advantage of Kuroko not necessarily knowing how that matchup goes.
Yeah, Cookie's priest deck is playing some. It's got sort of the dragon core. You know, you have your usual suspects: Crowd Roaster, actually a Scale Worm, Duskbreaker, the Fire Tree Witch Doctor. But then, like you were saying, he's got this fun Lyra the Sun Shard, Elise the Trailblazer, Omega Medic. That's a card you don't see very often.
Yeah, the Omega Medic tech is definitely an interesting choice for me, because normally I think that's for the mirror, which I guess he's sort of also playing to a little bit with Elise and Lyra. It looks like he's wanting to play the long game rather than the more tempo, beat your face down just so I can Mind Blast game that Control Freeze is capable of.
Yeah, not totally abandoning it, but definitely, I agree. It's definitely adjusting its list a little bit to try to maybe win very specific matchups. Priest is one of those classes that you can really tech to really whatever flavor you like. It looks like we have a Scavenging Hyena in the early game for the mid-range hunter, and CrazyCookie at the moment doesn't have a great way to remove it from the board, which is just one of those hunter starts that can really make you grab your mouse a little harder. Oh, and it's going to be buffed up by a series of Spring Pause and Links. Sorry, what was that?
Just comment that Hyena is going to be a huge threat, because normally you think you can Dustbreaker these early threats, but it's going to be well out of Dustbreaker range, and now if he plays Dustbreaker, he's just going to buff it even more.
Yeah, one of those Sophie's Choice where the Tar Creeper doesn't have enough attack, the Duskbreaker doesn't have enough attack, and now Kuroko can, if he wants to, Animal Companion, get Huffer every time. It's Huffer every time. And now just decide how he'd like to get through this. Use the pre-nerfed Hunter's Mark. We'll miss you, Hunter's Mark, but he's actually going to go ahead and use his Candle Shot Hunter's combo and send even more damage downtown. CrazyCookie is on the ropes.
I'm not really sure how he gets out of this here, because even the Star Creeper just gets eaten up. Dustbreaker buffs up the Hyena. I think this is all she wrote for game 2.
The smooth transition
there it
to
is.
the bottom right, buddy. And that's Scavenging Hyena is one of those cards, almost like Prophet Valen, but it only costs 2 mana, where you can't leave it. If you leave it on the board, you're asking for trouble. That's sort of like Tundra Rhino's another card like that. Lyra the Sun Shard we mentioned earlier. Just cards that demand your. I think you were saying it has like pseudo taunt, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a card that it doesn't have taunt, but if you leave it up, it's gonna kill you. So it actually just has better taunt.
Right, it's even better than taunt. It's like you wish you had taunt, so that if your opponent puts a taunt in front of it, you could still attack it. Super taunt, but also stealth. Super taunt, ultra stealth. So that's 2 quick wins for Kuroko going into this third match. And now this odd rogue, like you were saying, has 3 chances to try to find a win.
And 3 chances that I think it should be relatively favored in as well. Although, thankfully, we do get to see CrazyCookie's discard Warlock here.
He's a man of the people. This is the deck that I've been looking forward to this whole evening, because this is, you'll notice that far left card, that's a Lakari Sacrifice. This is a Quest Warlock. And he keeps the quest in the mulligan. He's intending to play the quest on 1. And he's actually opted to keep 2 Reckless Dire Trolls. I would assume that he figures that this is going to be an aggressive rogue. He's going to try to use these to stay alive. An interesting keep, though. Because the goal, I've actually had the opportunity to play against this deck, and the way he describes it is you really want a Cataclysm on 4 so that you can quest on 5. That's the goal of this deck. And then you just immediately start getting those 3/2s. How do you feel? How does Odd Rogue's Dagger obviously lines up pretty good against 1 Imp. Do you think it struggles moving into the mid and later stages of the game?
I think he on minions this game if he thinks it's going to go long, because those 3/2s individually aren't that big, but eventually that's representing a lot of damage going face at a stage in the game where Odd Rogue is usually looking to close it out with a Myra's into a Leroy Coldblood or something to take advantage of the chip damage. But
just going in max discard. He's going to have quest complete next turn. He's going to be able to play his Doomguard. He'll discard whatever card he draws and this Dire Troll, and he'll be able to, on turn 6, play his quest. And Kuroko can't get through this Dire Troll.
Yeah, I think that was his thought in keeping those cards, was this is an Odd Rogue that's going to look to press this early damage. I'll maybe potentially not have a turn 2 play for 2 very good turn 3 and 4 plays, even if one did get past the 5.
And this is another MVP card that I think is worthy of notice, is the Soul Warden that just came into CrazyCookie's hand. The 6 mana 6/6, which for him is basically going to be 6 mana 6/6 draw 3, which I feel like is a card anyone would play in almost any class. Way better than the old Ancient of Lore. The old 7 mana 5/5 draw 2 used to be. Now it's only draw 1.
Yep, absolutely. And then even going more for the late game, we had this Blood Reaper cooldown to bring up some more demon taunts to slow him down. I think we were discussing how Odd Rogue is looking favored, but from this board position, it looks like it's going to be tough.
Yeah, although this was a CrazyCookie was not able to make a super defensive play this turn, and this is not nothing. And actually, there's a card you were talking about just a few turns ago, the Myra's Unstable Element. Now, the timing of the Myra's is oftentimes interesting. When do you say, I mean, he's already got Leroy Coldblood. When do you rip this Myra's?
I think you spend the next maybe 1 to 2 turns throwing down basically everything you can in your hand, trying to be a little conscious of the file. that's pretty much the only board clear that I see in this list from Cookie here. So you empty your hand, and then as soon as you can Myra's and something else, because you cards and then burn your whole deck. So I actually like this preemptive Cold Blood here, given that the Valspine's protected behind the Tar Creeper for a turn.
Yeah, and he's actually going to trade in his 1/1 to play around that very Defile you were just talking about.
Yep, that's a great play from Kuroko. Good heads up play.
And so now CrazyCookie is in a situation where he's only got 11 health, and I'm looking at this board. There's a lot more than 11 damage staring him down, plus the Leroy in hand. Leroy and Deadly Poison both in hand. Oh! I mean, I don't know if this is going to turn, but... don't even need the Ghoul, Dan. So this is only 7 damage on the board, but we can see the Leroy. The hero power, and that is gonna do it.
2 quick wins for the aggressive decks here from Kuroko.
Yeah, and that I'm so glad we got to see the Warlock deck. And we see the ever important quest completion. Got to get that gold. And that, so we're, just so everyone at home is aware, we are playing this on a 15-minute delay, and I've just been informed that the first game is still on stream, and we've already seen it was a 3-0 run from Kuroko. Congratulations to him. And you know, there's something to be said for bringing the usual suspects, Kazghar.
Right, the wisdom of the crowd tends to be at least somewhat right as far as these are the strong archetypes. I'm going to bring them. And in addition to bringing the good decks, I have to say he played them very well. There were a lot of spots that I think there were some interesting decision points that could have gone either way. And to my eye, it looked like he made the right decision in almost every opportunity and showed why he was that WESG Peruvian finalist that he didn't get there by luck.
Yeah, it's people a lot of times will look at HearthStone and say like, especially if they go on a real bad losing streak. This is luck. I drew badly. He had every answer. But it's I mean, obviously there's some variance. It's a card game, but it's like a high variance and high skill game. And there's lots of opportunities for you to basically scuttle your chances. Like you were saying, that Priest game, plenty of opportunities for Kuroko to lose the game.
Yeah, absolutely. That Priest deck, I think playing against it can definitely make you rage quit if you're on a ladder climb and you're sitting there doing stuff and they pass for 9.
Right.
That only rarely happens, right? More of the time, it's a really interesting deck with a ton of different paths you can take, and you have to be able to know and assess those paths basically from turn 1 and play to your outs the entire game.
Yeah, and you always have to be cognizant of how much damage your spellstones will give you, how many shadow visions you've played, how many, what your cloning gallery gives you. And you have to do all of this under these time constraints that can just, unforced errors are one of those things that deck has a tendency to bring out of, especially rookie pilots of the deck. What do you think about that? So this is a mid-range hunter. Obviously the mid-range hunter is one of those decks where you just sort of assume it's going to win. What do you have any other thoughts on fourth deck? Like if you're bringing a usual suspects list with the hunter, priest, paladin, what are some other fourth decks you've seen, Kazghar, looking around?
Some other fourth decks I've seen, I actually like Q-Block. I think that's a little bit of a spicy pick, but I think in this meta that's slowing down, they exception of and so I think Q-Block actually is a bit of a spicy pick to just throw down Doom Guards. And it's a fourth deck that I'm not going to predict we'll see more of with the nerfs coming in, but I hope we will, because I think it's a fun deck to watch and cast, and that there's, again, a lot of decision points that can take the game in multiple directions.
Absolutely. We are about out of time, but real quick, hot takes. The nerfs are going in on Tuesday. Kazghar, off the top of your head, big winner heading into next week.
Be aggro odd mage, and that's my hot take. I think the odd hero power is going to throw stuff to face. I think it wrecks priest. I think you get to play Ragnaros. I think we're going to see some aggro on mage in a few tournament lineups in this post nerf meta.
Oh yeah, like full bore aggro, secret package, Kirin Tor mage. That list.
That's the one. Yep.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool. I would humbly submit priests just because it seems like hunter's getting a little worse and priest didn't get changed at all. So it's definitely a safer pick, not a super hot. You know what? I'm gonna go. You know what? I take it all back. Here we go. Hot take. Gonk Druid is gonna come back and show us
There we
all
go.
how it's done.
There we go. The hot takes are the only takes worth having. No one wants your lukewarm takes.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, I don't know. Maybe like Control Priest. Like obviously Control Priest is good. Gonk Druid. That's gonna be the dark horse. We're gonna see it. We're gonna see it come out, control the board, get 3 gonks, and then you're just gonna get gonked. And everyone's gonna be able to say gonk as many times in a sentence as they can. so, real quick. Yeah. Oh, that's right. And then immediately I'll Infestation. Real quick, one more time. Just want to mention the Discord. The link is under the stream. Come on by, talk to all of us, do some commentary, play some esports, learn about some esports, learn about some card games, and hang out with cool guys like Kazghar and Bemi, and moderately cool guys like me. Do you have any shout outs or anything before we sign off, Kazghar?
I do not. Just want to say thank you to Bemi for building this awesome community, and girls, excuse me, and non-binary, letting all genders get together, play some games, talk about them, make some friends. It's been a great experience, and hope this community keeps growing and thriving.
Well said. Well said. Thanks everybody for tuning in. This has been the CCGG Scrim Round 2. Come back next time when we're going to scrim some more. And until next time, have a great weekend.